seeing, the reflectivity of the material, we could already see the inconsistency of, the lettering on this bar. It's right on the actual name itself. So like the A and the S is not reflective like the A, the H, and the I. So that's already concerning just looking at it right off the bat, right? Even the logo, you can see it's just not as shiny as the lettering on the right. It's not passing the reflectivity. Can you spot any inconsistencies on this bar? Because right away you should be able to see along the edge here. When I first got the silver, I was really naive. And even though I did actually notice right away the inconsistencies, and I should know better because I'm a machinist. I should know that these inconsistencies does not match any kind of machine patterns at all. So that's a fail on me. But there's another question that I have in my mind. It's why is the center point here not shiny like the rest of the bar? Like it could be, but it's not. So it makes me suspicious too. Maybe it has something to do with the manufacturing process. Like you can see there's lettering in there, but if it was shiny, we could see the lettering in the center there a lot easier. Maybe you could see there right along the bottom side of this edge, you could probably see it's a little impure there, I suspect. So let's look at some other examples. This packaging is meant to be like tamper proof or to maintain integrity of the product. So like if it's in the package, then, then if we could find imperfections through the package, then that's even more damning that this product is not 99% pure that it's stated to be. Why is it that in this package, it's brown in there on that edge, that whole edge, it's brown. And silver oxide is really dark brown to black. So is this an oxide? I doubt it, because if you were to look in person, it's not just like brown, it's different colors, like dark purplish and bluish. Like there's actually another right in this corner here. It looks like it got tack welded, and in person you could see a lot more color variation instead of just brown coming off the edge. Like again, like it looks like purple and like steel. It looks like if there was this bar is steel. Like there's that kind of variety of colors, like experience extreme heat and discolored steel. So in the packaging, it makes you wonder if it has any nefarious intent where it's preventing it from oxidizing, thus showing, that it may not be pure silver. My whole production here of the dice that I make is actually really quite sensitive to whether or not if the silver is pure. Obviously, you can see right away, there's a whole bunch of alarm bells that should be going off right now, for example, because they are just riddled with inconsistent qualities, right? That anyone can just immediately identify. But the two biggest culprits that I want to keep aside here will be these two. But also, I want to show the fact that, if it was just pure silver, it would be nice and shiny like this part of the dome here. It'd be like that all over the top. The whole top surface should be nice and shiny, but it's not. In fact, you see dimpling, like irregular shape. So we'll go over more examples of that, and that will help us identify that what other products may not be pure. So this is an extreme example of the dimpling and how bad it can be, and it kind of shows itself more instead of as dimpling, just straight up, irregular shape. Even when it's trying to be molded and formed, it still keeps this weird characteristics of it not flowing really nice. So which would indicate like other materials reacting with oxygen. And when those other materials react with oxygen, they create like a ceramic type of material. So they don't melt and flow the same way like a nice clean metal would, right? Let's talk about like just how irregular the flow of the material is, right? So like look at this. Like why did it not flow like I would expect to, like on this piece, you know? This piece looks like it flowed much better, even though it's showing a whole lot of other example of it not being pure. The surface condition is just not as good as this one, but it still managed to flow and fill in the space nice and easy. If you look at the surface condition, these are a lot shinier than, let's say, that the Sahi bar was that I showed at the beginning of this video. All right. So that was one quality. Another quality is like, look how sharp the edges are on these dice, on these blanks, right? And compare it to this one and how inconsistent the sharpness is, right? Like this one is a lot duller. So when you look at these bars, can you tell which ones are impure and which ones you think are pure? Because there may be several tells that you can immediately identify whether or not if any of these bars are pure or not. And let's go with the obvious one, the reflectivity, right? Even the most shiniest bar that I showed you earlier is to be impure. Well, why is all of the other bars so dull looking, right? But now that you even have a more keener sense at identifying the next tell, can you spot it? It is right here. See that dimpling? It doesn't show up anywhere else on the bars. The one beside it, it's another tell that these bars were impure. This shot was actually from those valve candy bars, the 1 kilogram candy bars. So those bars makes this shot, and this shot makes these cubes, right? So these cubes came from those valve candy bars. Let's talk about the middleman, right? And how bad is this issue really, right? Because if you were to look at Asahi here, right? Asahi, if you look on their website for the specific bar, they'll tell you that the production was between 2015 and 2018, and that they supply paper ensuring its purity. And now I did not receive those papers at all. And I think that's because of the middleman, right? Now, I've purchased all my 1 ounce bars as various random 1 ounce bars from a very, very recognized supplier, I guess you could say, trusted supplier here in my city, the biggest supplier there is. And so I assume I see all my 1 ounce silver bars to be impure, right, from that. But the valve candy that I showed you in the picture that I showed you earlier, right? Those 1 kilogram valve candy bars came from a very trusted, one of the biggest banks in Canada, right? So all my silver didn't come from just a single middleman, right? And so I was like, how deep does this issue really go if I'm getting impure silver bullion from more than one supplier? And the reason I believe is very concerning about the whole subject in itself is that even though it's stated that it's against the law to sell impure silver does not match its stated purity, well, when I tried reporting this issue, it ended up becoming a hot potato scenario where it's like, I called one institution and they're like, no, we don't deal with this issue here. We'll give you a number to the next institution. And I did this process for probably about 5 institutions before the last institution, which was Canadian Mint, right? And so trying to talk to Canadian Mint, they would not bother with dealing with silver bullion from any other supplier, any other manufacturer other than themselves, right? So they're a self-regulating institution, but despite the law, there is no governing law that governs all silver bullion manufacturers. I believe this corruption, I guess you could say, kind of extends to everyone involved in the industry. I believe that the middlemen and the manufacturers all are aware of what's going on. They're all aware that this trade is not governed, is not being regulated, right? So I think this has been going on for quite some time. And all in all, I actually challenge you, the viewer, to look at other YouTubers, because you're on YouTube right now. Go look at other YouTubers' collections and see if you could identify any of the impurity tells that I've been showing in this video. And I myself have done this, and the one thing I've noticed specifically that was horrendous amongst a lot of the collections I've seen was just how yellow a lot of their silver has become, right? And like I mentioned, silver doesn't turn any other color than brown to like a really dark brown to blackish kind of color when it oxidizes. So if it's changing any other color, that's an indication that it's not pure silver. So this Asagi here, I can definitively tell you that this is not pure silver, despite all the tells that we've been going through in this video. The reason being is that when I tried melting this down to shot, because I had enough of them that I did a run just melting these alone. And by the end of the melting process, I ended up finding sand within my silver shot. So yeah, busted. So now that you're aware of this whole corruption issue now that I've been dealing with, I suggest maybe subscribing now and hitting the bell so you're notified to my next video, which I'll be covering how I'm purifying this silver. So that way I can assure you the dice you get is at least more pure than the bullion you own, unless it's Canadian Mint, and maybe that bullion you own might be actually pure. So careful with what you buy, and stay tuned.